Hello, my name is Bryan Kelly, and today I'm going to show you how to make a more historically accurate wooden tankard. Due to poor construction and design, leakage and durability are among the many complaints about wooden tankards sold by major retailers such as Amazon. Early tankards from the British Iron Age were typically constructed from wooden staves held together by bronze plate rings. The bottom of the tankard was inset in a groove in the staves, and a cast bronze handle attached to one side completed the drinking vessel. After some preparation using the joiner, bandsaw, and planer, I cut the 14 staves using a table saw with the blade angled to roughly 12 degrees. I chose to use maple as it is a strong and durable hardwood. I then used a crosscut sled to cut the groove in the staves for the tankard bottom. While ancient tankards relied on the expansion of the wet wood to maintain a watertight seal, I used Type Bond 3 waterproof wood glue to serve this purpose. After the glue dried, I rounded over the edges using a router and sanded the tankard using increasingly fine grits. I then applied a food-safe epoxy coating to ensure the cup is watertight and to protect the wood. I then began work on the metal components of the tankard. While the metal components of historical tankards were made primarily from bronze, I chose to manufacture the components out of aluminum due to its availability, low cost, and favorable casting characteristics. First, I cut 16-gauge aluminum sheet metal into strips and then used a roller to form the rings. Next, I began the casting process. Using a 3D printed pattern, I created a two-part mold using green sand. I first packed the sand by hand around the pattern at the bottom of the overturned drag. Then, in several successive layers, I uniformly compacted the sand to fill the drag and prevent distortion caused by soft spots in the sand. I then placed the cope on top of the drag, located the second half of the pattern, and showered baby powder over the parting line to act as mold release. To make the sprue, I used a 5/8 inch wooden dowel. After fully packing the cope, I separated the two halves of the mold and removed the patterns. Finally, I carved a pouring basin at the top of the sprue and a gate for the molten metal to travel from the sprue to the mold cavity. Using a propane foundry, I melted down various scrap aluminum parts. I chose parts that were previously cast for their favorable casting properties. Once the aluminum became molten around a temperature of 700 degrees Celsius, I skimmed off the slag and poured the molten aluminum into the sprue. After cooling, I removed the handle from the mold, cut the sprue off, and filed down the flashing around the parting line. To achieve a weathered bronze appearance, I applied a satin black patina to the handle and rings and sealed them with a clear enamel spray to prevent further oxidation. Finally, the rings and the handle were joined to the tankard using 5-minute epoxy. After the epoxy was set, the tankard was ready to serve up a pint. Cheers!